Every night you enter a world that feels completely real. You see people you've never met. You visit places that don't exist. You experience entire stories. And then, within minutes of waking up, most of it is gone. Your brain didn't just let you forget your dreams. Something much stranger is happening. Because here's the strange part. You probably dreamed last night. You may have spent hours experiencing people, places, conversations, fears, and entire events that never happened. But ask yourself what you remember. Maybe one image, maybe a face, maybe a strange feeling, and sometimes nothing. It's almost as if your brain builds an entire world while you're asleep, lets you live inside it, and then deletes most of the evidence before you wake up. So why? The answer begins with something we usually think of as a failure: forgetting. When you're awake, your brain is constantly deciding what information is worth keeping. Every second, you're seeing things, hearing things, touching things, reading words, recognizing faces. Most of that information never becomes a lasting memory. And that's not a mistake. If your brain remembered everything, your memories would be overwhelmed by useless details. The sound of a refrigerator, the exact position of every object on your desk, every person who walked past you today, every meaningless sentence you heard. Forgetting is part of the system. But sleep creates a strange problem, because your brain doesn't simply shut down when you fall asleep. During sleep, it continues producing conscious experiences. And this is where the old idea about dreams being purely a REM phenomenon starts to break down. Dreaming can occur during both REM and non-REM sleep. REM dreams tend to be especially vivid, emotional, bizarre, and story-like, but experiences can also be reported after waking from non-REM sleep. So the real mystery isn't simply, why do we dream? It's, why do we remember so little of what we experienced? Imagine your brain creating a movie. The images are there, the emotions are there, the characters are there, the story feels real while you're inside it. But the system responsible for turning that experience into a stable memory isn't working exactly like it does during waking life. One proposed explanation involves the chemical environment of sleep. During REM sleep, norepinephrine activity is dramatically different from wakefulness, while acetylcholine plays a major role in maintaining the active brain state. Researchers have proposed that this unusual neurochemical environment may make it harder for dream experiences to become lasting memories. But this is important. Scientists don't have one final answer that explains every case of dream forgetting. Dream recall is complicated, and the way you wake up matters. Think about the first few seconds after waking. The dream can still be there. You know what happened. You can almost see the room. You can almost hear the person speaking. Then you move. You open your eyes. You think about where you are. You reach for your phone. You start thinking about the day. And suddenly the dream begins to collapse. The face disappears first, then the location, then the conversation, then the entire story becomes impossible to reconstruct. This is why the moment you wake up may be so important. Recent research reviewing dozens of awakening studies found that dream recall is influenced not only by sleep stage, but also by how you're awakened, your individual characteristics, and the environment in which you wake. Even the difference between being gently called awake and being abruptly awakened by an alarm can affect what you report remembering. So the dream may not have vanished because there was no experience. You may simply have lost access to it, and this explains something you've probably experienced. Sometimes you wake up knowing you dreamed, but you can't remember the dream. You remember the feeling without the story. You feel anxious, happy, sad, confused. Something happened. You just can't remember what. That's because the emotional experience and the detailed memory of the experience don't necessarily survive in exactly the same way. The story can disappear while something about its emotional impact remains. And there is another strange possibility. Maybe dream forgetting isn't just a problem. Maybe it's useful. Think about what dreams contain: a person from your childhood, a conversation from yesterday, a place you've visited, a fear you've been carrying for years, a completely impossible building, a stranger with the face of someone you know. Your brain can combine fragments of waking experience into something completely new. If you remembered every bizarre dream in perfect detail, your waking memory would contain an enormous amount of information that never actually happened. So perhaps the brain doesn't need to preserve the entire experience. It can process information during sleep without turning every dream into a permanent autobiographical memory. Researchers have proposed several mechanisms that could contribute to this phenomenon, including the unusual neurochemical conditions of sleep and changes in how memory systems operate during different sleep stages. But the science is still developing. There isn't a single switch inside your brain labeled as forget dreams. It's much more complicated than that, and that makes the mystery even stranger. Because every night your brain creates experiences that can feel completely real. You don't decide to create them. You don't choose the characters. You don't choose the locations. You don't know what's going to happen next. And yet, while you're inside the dream, your brain can accept the impossible as reality. You can be standing in a city that doesn't exist and never question why. You can speak to someone who died years ago and believe they're still alive. You can suddenly be flying and somehow treat it as completely normal. Then you wake up, and reality returns. The strange world disappears. Most of the evidence disappears with it. For a few minutes, you might still be able to reach back into it. Then it's gone. A world existed inside your mind. You experienced it, and now you have almost nothing to prove it ever happened. So the next time you wake up from a dream and feel it slipping away, don't immediately think your memory failed. Your brain may simply be doing what the biology of sleep makes surprisingly easy. You don't need to remember every world your brain creates. You only need to wake up and continue living in this one. And maybe that's the strangest thing about sleep. Every night you become someone who experiences a reality that doesn't exist. Every morning you become someone who forgot most of it. And somewhere between those two states, your brain decides what gets to stay and what disappears before you even open your eyes.